It'll be a fun one.
Were any of you inspired to do a little more running than normal after last week? I was. I'm still sore.
Yeah, it's crazy. It hits you a little bit different.
Yeah. That's why they say it's good to mix up your training. You think because
Absolutely.
you feel really good doing one thing that you got it covered, but
yep, variability is definitely the key.
Mm-hmm.
Key for a number of reasons. It'll keep you healthier too.
It's a good topic.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. All right, so let's get going in about 30 seconds.
Cool.
Everybody can hear us okay, I'm guessing. If you have any issues, good. If you have any issues, you can type in the chat box or make panicky gestures and I can help you. Zach can help you. Also, if you want to ask any questions verbally, you just let us know by raising your hand. You open up the participant box, you can raise your hand. We can unmute you. If you aren't cool with that, but you want to ask a question, you can chat it, put it in the chat box as well. We have, let's see here. I think it's that time. Any questions for anybody before we get started? We're good? We're ready? All right, I'm going to let Zach take over because he's our in-house guru. Let's do it.
All right, so just to reiterate what Tina was saying too with questions, if we're going through a movement as we progress through, feel free to type something in the chat box if you need some extra guidance or you have a couple questions on the exact exercise, and I'll be more than happy to go back and explain things or give you some extra tips. So I think most of you guys were here last week, so you got the whole rundown on what plyometrics actually are, which is great. So we get to kind of move through a lot of that more quickly. But just as a little bit of a refresher to start, plyometrics are more of an explosive speed strength style movement that are characterized by muscles lengthening, getting longer pretty quickly, followed by rapid shortening as well to produce high amounts of force. When you think of a plyometric, think of something like a squat jump. That's usually the easiest kind of movement to think about and kind of understand what's going on with the body. The reason we use them for running specifically is running is basically a plyometric movement over and over and over again. Every stride is a plyometric, and we want to make sure that your body is prepared to handle those repeated stresses. So to do so, you have to incorporate similar styles of training into your own strength and conditioning program. So that's really the why behind it. The other thing that I want to mention this week as we get into some of the more advanced plyometrics is that we know two of the most common sort of overuse type injuries for runners are going to be tendon issues at the Achilles, so down near the heel and calf, and the patellar tendon, so kind of just below the kneecap. Plyometrics are a great way to provide stress through those specific areas to, number one, hopefully reduce your chance of having an issue with them as you continue on your running career. And two, as part of the rehab process, a lot, more so in the very late stages of rehab, to get you back to 100%. And again, reduce the chances of whatever injury you might have been experiencing happening again. That's really the goal there. All right. So today, the main ways that we're going to kind of progress a lot of these plyometrics are one, using more compound multi-joint movements. So things similar to a squat. Two, incorporating single leg variations, whether that's jumping and landing from one leg or jumping from two legs, landing on one leg, etc. And three, some multiplanar movements. So that means things like rotation, things like lateral movements, more side to side movements. And those variations just really increase the complexity of some of the movements and require your body to have to tap into some other muscles to really produce force and then absorb force. So that's kind of where we're going to head. And yeah, any questions on the rundown? Everyone good on all that? Good. Cool. All right. So we'll kind of jump into things now. We're going to do a similar dynamic warm up to the one that we did last week. We're going to incorporate one or two of the movements that we used later in the session in the warm up. So first things first, we're going to start with the forward leg swings again. So all we're doing is swinging front to back. Again, you can use a wall or a chair, anything that you have nearby for a little bit of balance support if you need. Let's do 15 to 20 on each side. Get the hamstrings to lengthen a little bit and kind of function in a way that they're going to have to with these plyometric movements. You can go ahead and switch sides now. Good. All right. And again, from last week, we're doing our lateral leg swings as well. So we're going across the body and then out to the side. 15 to 20 reps on each side again here. We get some of the groin muscles to open up, work on using some of the outside of the hip musculature as well, which are going to be extremely important as we get into some of the rotational and single leg work here. Good, and go ahead and switch sides now. Excuse me. Good. All right. So now what we're going to do is jump into some of the A skips and C skips that we worked on last week for those of you that were with us. Again, these are kind of running drills. They're also basic plyometric movements, so they make a nice warm up for a workout like this. So A skips, hopping on both feet, one leg comes up. Good. And again, around 15 reps here. Looking good. All right. Good. So the next one that we're going to do again was from last week's session. We're going to go into C skips here. So basically you're doing an A skip out to the front and then opening the hip up out to the side. So start with a nice little bounce. It's up, out to the side, up, out to the side. Do all the reps on one leg first. Again, 15 or so. Nice. And you guys can go ahead and switch sides when you finished up those 15. All right. And now we're going to go into the world's greatest stretch again. So exaggerated lunge, you're going to step back with your right foot. Right hand goes down to the floor. Your left elbow is going to go down towards the instep of your foot. Then you're going to rotate up towards the ceiling. Left hand back down to the floor and sit back into a nice hamstring stretch. And then we'll switch sides. Left foot back into an exaggerated lunge, left hand down. Right elbow goes to the instep of the foot. Rotate up towards the ceiling. Hand back down next to your right foot and sit back into a hamstring stretch here. Good. One more time, left foot in front. Elbow to instep. Rotate up towards the ceiling. Hand back down into a hamstring stretch. And last one on the right side here. All right, last part of the dynamic warm-up here before we get into some of the more plyometric movements. Just some basic lateral lunges, alternating sides. Again, getting us nice and warmed up and prepared for some of the lateral and rotational work that we'll be doing. Ten more seconds or so here. All right, you can grab a sip of water if you have it. So from here, what we're gonna do is actually, again, use the base position work that we did last week as sort of an extended warm-up for some of the plyometrics that we're gonna go into. So to review, base position, hips hinge back slightly, soft bend in the knee, about a little bit wider than your hips. And this is really the position that you want to land in and sort of begin the plyometric movements from. What we're gonna start with are just 5 reps of a snap down from triple extension to that base position, okay? So it's gonna look like so. Up on your toes, snap down, feet slide apart slightly. Just 5 quick reps, really, you know, hammering away at the base position and kind of refocusing things here. Good, I'm just keeping an eye on everybody, seeing what it's looking like. We wanna make sure we have this down pat before we really start to progress things. Good. All right, when you finish up the 5, move on to the next progression of the base position. So this time we're gonna do a split squat snap down. So all the way up onto your toes, snapping down into the split squat position. Up onto the toes, snap down into the split squat. We'll do 5 reps on each side for these. Good. Really stick the landing, focus on staying nice and stable in the split squat position. You're gonna see a lot of movements that are similar to this moving forward. So you wanna make sure you have that position down pat. Good. Nice, everyone's looking solid there. All right, and last one as part of the more plyometric specific warm up here is the single leg snap down. So starting in triple extension, snapping down onto one leg, really stick the landing, focus on maintaining control through the entirety of the landing. 5 repetitions on each side for these as well. And again, not to sound like a broken record, but this is a great way to prepare yourself for some of the single leg work that you're gonna see in a bit here. Good. Really own that landing position. Good. A couple more people finishing up and then we'll move on here. All right. So everybody feeling warm, ready to go into the more advanced plyos here. Good. All right. From here, we're actually going to build on another concept from last week. We did a single exchange. So you were up in this runner's march position and you were exchanging feet, right? From here, what we're going to do is progress things by incorporating a double and potentially a triple exchange you could go to. We'll stick with the double for today, and then you can kind of progress things on your own if you're feeling confident with the double exchange here, okay? So again, you're starting in this nice tall march position, and you're gonna go exchange, exchange. So you should be starting and finishing with the same leg down on the floor. Boom, boom. Good. And again, you want to really own that single leg position, right? You want to stick the landing and try and hold it for a 2 to 3 second count here. Good. Give yourself 5 reps on each side to try and get this one down. Balance is definitely tough, but that's what we're here for, right? We're all working on it. Good. Nice, Mauro. Good. I see some triples, some people giving triples a go. That looks great. Good. If this movement happens to be something that is pretty difficult for you, you're having a tough time maintaining the landing position, like we talked about last week, you can always go up to a wall, put your hands right out in front of you, kind of right across from your shoulders, take a step back from the wall, and then proceed to do the single, double, triple, all the way up to really 5 times exchanges. Once you get into that 5 exchange, it gets pretty difficult. It gets pretty tiring. So make sure that you're prepared for it and you're still owning all of the positions before you get to that point. All right. So we're going to get into some of the more advanced plyometrics now. Like I said, we're going to be incorporating some more compound movements onto one leg and some rotational multi-directional kind of work. The first one is going to be a variation on something that you guys have all probably seen before. I'm sure all of you have seen a basic squat jump, right? What we're going to do to change things up here is go 2 legs to 1 leg on the landing. So you're going to come down into the squat, jump up, land on that single leg in a nice solid base position here, okay? So give 3 reps on each side a try. So up, land on 1 leg. Really own that landing position for at least 2 seconds before you move on. Looking good. Nice, Mark. Good rep there. Good. Just 3 on each side here, guys. You want to save some in the tank. Good. So ways that you can progress that specific variation, to take with you and kind of work on your own, are really increasing the speed of the movement. So number 1, increasing the speed of the actual squat jump. So you're coming down very quickly and exploding with more speed and force, so that you're having to land from a higher distance, essentially. All right, that's really one of the best ways that you can progress that specific movement. To give you another example of more single leg work here, we're going to use a single leg reverse lunge into a single leg hop, okay? So basically you're going to step back, lunge down, drive off that stance leg into a single leg hop, landing on 1 leg. So a little bit faster, that looks like so. Okay? Let's give 3 reps on each side a try here as well. So when you guys are doing the lunge here, make sure that you're stepping backward first, right? So I see some of you trying to do a forward lunge into it. It's a little more challenging to kind of coordinate. You want to step back into the lunge, drive off the stance leg, landing on the stance leg. Good. Don't forget the base position as well. Hinge the hips back slightly, slight bend in the knee when you land. Ensure that you're not landing on a stiff, entirely stiff leg. Good. All right. So same concepts apply to progress this if you take this into your own training, really increasing the speed of this movement, maintaining that stick of the landing is the best way to go about making that a little more challenging here. So we've seen a few single leg variations here. We're going to move towards some rotation now. Again, the rotation really requires your body to have to stabilize in multiple planes of movement, which obviously is a little different than running, right? Running, we're used to just one plane over and over and over again. But the, excuse me, the idea behind it is that being more competent moving through multiple planes of motion will make the actual running movement that much easier for your body to handle. All right, so now what we're gonna do is a 90-degree rotational squat jump, okay? So a lot of words there, I know. All it's gonna be, you're gonna come down into the base position, squat, jump, and rotate so that you're landing 90 degrees from the starting position, right? So we're gonna have to go both ways here. Start with 3 reps to the right and then move into 3 reps to the left, okay? So down into the base position, up, rotate 90 degrees in the air, and finish in the base position as well. Good. Nice. Again, make sure you're really owning that landing position. You want to hold it for 2 to 3 seconds at the very least. Nice. That looks solid, Tina. Good work. Good. Waiting for a couple people to finish up and then we'll move on. So two ways that you can really progress this. Again, like I mentioned, speed of the movement is the first progression. So you would just do the 90-degree rotational jump a little bit quicker, more explosive. The second way would be to actually make the rotation even more dramatic. So we're talking 180 degrees of rotation now. So down into the base position, jump up, and landing the opposite way. All right. So give those a try. Let's do another 3 reps on each side here. Nice. A little more challenging for sure, sticking the landing. There we go. Good job, guys. Good. And these rotational concepts can also be applied to single leg movements. We may or may not get into some of that in a little bit here. We'll see how much time we have. But again, these are all principles that you can sort of apply to any number of movements, right? So you can get a little bit creative in terms of taking these ideas into your own training. Next, we're gonna work on some single leg work again. We're gonna go with some linear vertical bounds. A bound is basically just a jump from one foot to the other, very similar to a stride in running, right? So I know a lot of you guys are, you know, in a New York City apartment, so there's not a ton of room. So we're going to focus on the vertical component as opposed to, you know, horizontal sort of bounds here. So you're going to start on one leg. Let's say you're starting on your right leg. You're going to come down into the base position, bound straight up into the air, landing on your opposite foot. And again, stick that landing straight up. It's tough for me too sometimes. Straight up, landing on the opposite leg. And you know, the application to running of this one is pretty obvious. This very much mimics the normal gait pattern of running, like I mentioned before. So definitely a staple in a runner's plyometric program here. Good. One or two more reps on each side, and then bring it back in for the next progression here. We'll try and get one or two more in here. I know I want to leave a minute or two for questions as well. Excuse me. All right, so we're going to take that single leg concept and apply it to a more lateral side to side movement now. Okay, so we're going to do some lateral bounds or lateral skiers. Sometimes people will refer to these as. I'm sure you guys have seen these before. We'll put a little twist on it in a minute. So side to side bounds, again, you're trying to stick the landing. For now, don't worry about speed. Just really focus on owning the landing position. Let's do 5 on each side, 10 total. Good. And a really nice way to progress this specific variation is to decrease the amount of time that you're spending on one of your feet. So what I mean by that is if I'm starting on my left foot and bounding to the right, I'm going to try and spend the least amount of time possible on my right foot. So it's going to look like so. Back to the left. Back to the left. Good. Nice, you guys look good doing this one. Same thing, just 3 or so reps on each side here. And we'll finish up with one last one that I want to squeeze in just to talk a little bit about a few movements that are more specific to the calf and Achilles complex. Like I mentioned, that's one of the most commonly injured tendons in runners. So the way that we sort of isolate that area more so with some plyometric movements is by trying to keep the knee a little bit straighter, right? So you're not able to rely on some of those bigger muscles such as the quad and glute, hamstring, and your body has to produce and absorb more force through the calf and Achilles. So the best way to do that is through pogo jumps. So you can start on 2 legs, feet together, knees are straight, and you're just literally jumping up and down like a pogo stick. I usually do these with people for time as opposed to repetitions. So start off with something like 15 to 20 second bouts of it, and then work your way up closer to 30, even 45 seconds at a time. And that will really build the endurance and overall capacity of your Achilles and calf in a way that's very specific to a running motion. Progressing these, you know, you can go to a single leg, which is much more challenging from a fatigue perspective, and you can sort of incorporate some side-to-side movements as well. All right. I know we're coming up on 12:30 here, so I wanted to leave a minute or two for questions if you guys have any at all.
If you guys would like to raise your hand, we could unmute you, or you can write it, any questions you have in the chat box, whatever you prefer. Oh, we have a hand. Who's that?
Cool.
That is Mark. Let's unmute you. There he is. Mark, you're here.
Ooh, I think he still might be muted.
Yeah, hold on one second here. I thought I unmuted you. There we go. Try again.
Okay.
There you are.
You hear me?
Yep. Hey, Mark.
Not as much a question. I think I had asked last week about the labral question, and actually I came today with my left knee being a little bit sore. And one of the things I noticed about both these things, the more the plyometrics I did, all those like niggles went away. Like I was a little bit nervous to get on them, but once I did the plyometrics, it sort of, I guess, activated some other muscle groups, and really like my left glute was really sore after this, but I ran really activated, much like a million times better, even though
Great.
I've been doing a ton of clamshells and side things and all those sort of like single plane things, but the doing the plyometrics really helped recruit a ton more muscle. So it was great.
Absolutely. Oh, that's great to hear. Yeah, the plyometrics are definitely going to be a lot more demanding on the body and some of the muscle groups that you spoke to there than some things like a clamshell that you might use earlier on in a strength training program or in a rehab process. So I'm definitely glad to hear that, and that makes perfect sense. I think incorporating them for you as part of your excuse me, warm up before going out for a run is something that'll be extremely helpful for you.
Yeah, that was great. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Cool. All right. Anyone else have anything they want to ask? Okay, I see another hand.
Mauro, yeah.
Let me unmute you. You should be able to speak. There you are. Hi, Mauro.
Hey, hi, how are you? Thanks for the class. My question was, how often should you incorporate plyometrics workouts to your daily, I guess, to your weekly runs?
Absolutely. It's a great question. Really, the answer depends slightly on how experienced you are as a runner and how trained you are overall. So if you're someone that's been training for many years and you've been running for many years, you can probably get away with 2 to 3 times a week. Really focusing on a solid block of plyometrics in a strength training program or before or after one of your runs. If you're someone who's just started out running or someone that hasn't really done any specific strength work before in their athletic career, you want to be a little bit more cautious in terms of how quickly you introduce plyometrics. So I would suggest starting with 1 time a week, really focusing on it for maybe 10 minutes or so. And then, gradually introducing another session, and then, maybe a 5-minute addition to each session, etc., so that you're progressively building up your tolerance to some of these plyometric movements.
Awesome. Cool. All right, awesome. How long should a plyometric workout last?
So really, yeah, I know it's a little bit different the way we did it here. You really want to incorporate it into a more traditional strength training program as well. So sometimes it really depends on the case. Sometimes I'll do them as like a 10-15-minute block as we get into a strength training session. Or sometimes if I want to focus more on like an endurance, characteristic or like a fatigue state, I'll do them for 10 to 15 minutes at the end of a strength training session or at the end of a run. That you don't really want to be doing them for, 30, 45 minutes all at once, because that's a really high volume of these challenging plyometric movements.
Awesome. All right, thank you. Appreciate it.
No problem at all. Great question.
Anyone else? We have enough time for one more.
Anything at all.
I think this was fun. I want to do it again. Let's talk about that offline, Zach. See what we can come up with.
Sounds good.
You guys are amazing. This was so much fun. I will send a recap along with all the exercises we did. I know last week I sent Seconds Pro in the recap.
Yeah.
I'll send that again, and I'll, maybe Zach, you and I can come up with a little sequence for you guys to do on your own, some drills.
Definitely. Yeah, I think that would be great. I think that'd be great.
That way you can start to implement these on your own. Do you have a question down there? No, you're good? Okay. I saw him get excited. Awesome. Thank you guys so much for coming. We'll see you next week.
Thanks for coming, guys. I really appreciate it.
Soon. Okay.
All right. Bye.
Bye.